It can feel like time has stretched thinner here, like you've been standing inside the same question longer than you meant to. Not actively asking it anymore, just carrying it, waiting for something to settle, for a shape to form around what you're already inside. You may notice how familiar the uncertainty feels now. Not sharp, not urgent, just present. The kind of waiting that becomes part of the background, even while it quietly weighs on you. There's often a steady closeness in this space, enough connection to feel attached, enough consistency to stay engaged, conversations that move easily, moments that feel shared, even intimate. And still, no clarity arrives. Nothing is named. Nothing is anchored. You may feel how your heart keeps leaning forward, while the situation itself stays still. It can feel strange to be emotionally involved without being emotionally oriented, like caring without knowing where you stand. Inside you, two experiences may be living side by side. One that trusts the depth of what you felt, and another that keeps noticing the absence of clarity. You might feel comforted by the connection as it exists, while also feeling quietly unsettled by what remains undefined. Staying can feel easier than stepping away from something that feels meaningful. And questioning can feel exhausting when answers never seem to come. Both of these can be true at once. You may notice how patient you've become without meaning to, how you've learned to wait without asking too much, how you've softened your expectations just enough to stay steady. There's often a gentleness in that, a willingness to give time. And yet, there can also be a quiet ache in how much you've held without reassurance. Waiting can start to feel like a role you didn't choose, but slowly accepted. At some point, the waiting may turn inward. You may find yourself wondering if you're asking for something unreasonable, if clarity is something you're supposed to outgrow, if your desire to understand where you stand is somehow asking too much of the moment. These questions can sound calm, thoughtful, even fair, and still, they can leave you feeling slightly ungrounded, as if you're the one carrying the weight of not knowing. There's a particular tiredness that comes from holding uncertainty for a long time. Not the kind that announces itself, more like a low hum. You may notice it in how often you revisit the same thoughts, how easily your mind drifts back to what hasn't been said, how you keep a part of yourself available, just in case clarity finally arrives. That kind of readiness takes energy, even when it looks quiet from the outside. Waiting can also blur your sense of time. Days move forward, but something inside stays paused. You may notice how moments feel meaningful and incomplete at the same time. How you enjoy what's happening, while also sensing what isn't. That contrast can be hard to name. It doesn't feel like dissatisfaction. It feels more like suspension, like standing between two possibilities without being invited fully into either. There's no requirement here to turn this waiting into insight. No need to find a lesson in the lack of clarity. The connection mattered. The uncertainty mattered too. One doesn't cancel the other. You don't have to decide whether waiting was worth it or not. You don't have to measure your patience or question your instincts. This experience doesn't need to be resolved to be valid. You may feel a quiet grief for the clarity that never came. Not because everything was bad, but because something important stayed unfinished. That grief doesn't have to lead anywhere. It doesn't need to become motivation or understanding. It can simply be acknowledged as part of what you've been carrying. Softly, without explanation. For now, there's room to rest inside the truth of this waiting. To let yourself feel how long it's been. To let the uncertainty exist without trying to push it toward an answer. Nothing needs to be named tonight. Nothing needs to be decided. If it feels okay, you can stay here a little longer. There's no rush to move.